Hey folks, Daniel Kempling here. Thanks for letting me inside your device today. I do hope this finds you well. I wanted to talk to you today about problems, priorities, and objectives. The last time we were together, I touched on what I see as the absolute necessity of authenticity, sincerity, self honesty as a foundation for an effective inquiry into life. Today, I want to draw on my day job, as I say it. I work for my local government, serving in the position as Director of Emergency Management. So there's something that goes on in the emergency management realm when the incident first begins. You show up usually when you just don't want to show up. It's always the wrong time of day. Make some bad coffee, and then you transfer command if you're taking over from some other local authority. And the person that takes over command at this point may be a professional emergency manager, maybe not. But in this case, when I take over as an incident commander, I have a couple lovely decisions and a couple responsibilities I've got to do. One, after assuming command, signing on to it and establishing a spending authority. They don't mention that one right away, but yeah, that's really important. The incident commander needs to, one, define the problem, and having clearly defined the problem, set specific objectives. And now that you've set objectives, in a happy world, all the supporting agencies and all their crews are going to support your objectives to get this job done, get it job done efficiently. So I'm using this emergency management as a life metaphor here, so allow me to beat it to death now. One of the other things about having defined the problem and set common objectives is you, in the business parlay, own the problem. And it's very important to know who owns a problem when you're liaising agency to agency during a major event, major incident. So who owns our problem and what is our problem? Again, for those that are just joining me, I have a background both in martial arts as well as fitness and Pilates and other movement modalities. And so I view a lot of the things through the lens of these studies and these arts. But in this case, I'm going to stick with the emergency management because it's a very durable metaphor. I've acid tested it these last few years, and it really does stand up as a useful model for approaching an inquiry into life. So yeah, you own the problem. I'll give you an example. Gosh, 8-9 months ago, it's been a long haul already. I'm shooting this in January 18th, 2021. COVID crisis began. And so I have a plague on my front door. Great. So what is my problem? Is my problem the fact that I have a pandemic? Well, it certainly is creating problems for me, but that is not my problem because Alberta Health Services owns that problem as the lead agency, and they set their objectives and I support them. What is my problem? My problem, oh wow, I have to think about that. And so I have to define my problem before I can ask people to support my objectives. Having thought about it, my major first problem is maintaining critical infrastructure services, and that is wholly a function of staff absenteeism. Okay, got it. Better get the water treatment guys on rotation and sequester them. Boom, boom, boom. Got it. So you got to define your problem. So coming back to life now, for those of us who are using different disciplines to solve our problem, perhaps we need to take a little time and more clearly define it, and then most certainly own it. So once you have owned your problem, you can respond to it. If you have no ownership of it, all you can do is react, because then everything happens to you. So ownership is essential. Defining the problem as accurately as you can within that operational period, as we say. Um, for sure, your problems and your approaches will appropriately change over time. Muhammad Ali once said that if you view the world at 50 the same way that you did at 20, then you've wasted 30 years of your life. Yeah, man. You haven't been paying attention. Those that pay attention typically evolve in their inquiry and their approach. So, anyhow, how are we going to define this? Well, far beyond me, I am no grand philosopher, but I'll take a stab at it off the top of my head as far as a problem that we have at least a dis-ease. Something ain't right. Something don't feel easy. Something don't feel right. Something don't feel just. Something doesn't feel balanced in the body. Something doesn't feel balanced in society. Way too much fear, way too much violence, way too much neurotic, obsessive coping behaviors. Yeah, some kind of problem in that realm. Okay, clearly this is a big one, and we're in the midst of it. So we need to clear the path in front of us and set some objectives. Well, here we go. This is where it gets a bit challenging, and why, again, using the emergency management metaphor that I'm beating to death, why you don't just go rushing off willy-nilly, putting out the fire before setting some clear tactical objectives. And here's what you need to have in place before you can do that. They're called priorities. Priorities typically in emergency management would start in descending order of life safety, first of the first responders, and then everybody else. And then scene stabilization, then property, critical infrastructure first, and all the other ones after. The environment, maybe down the line business continuity. That's a descending order of priorities, and it's really important that the people working together can agree on these priorities, because you don't really want to be having turf war in the middle of trying to solve a disaster. So what would our priorities potentially be in dealing with this disease, this miasm of fear and dysfunction and neurotic obsessive coping behaviors that we're dealing with? Well, I set my first objective, or priority, pardon me, which is authenticity. Okay? Can't do decent research if you're not honest with your data. So be straight up with yourself, first and foremost. Secondly, practicality in application. When it comes to this sort of thing, well, it may be on a grand scale useful to, like, open your crown chakra to one God consciousness and then flood the scene with the violet flame of Saint Germain. Okay, potentially, but I need something for my own approach I can measure. Something that has a metric to it, something that I can test, run programs, run routines, and test its effectiveness against my life. I found such nebulous type descriptions not as useful. And lastly, in my priorities, after practicality and sincerity, that it serve the common good, that it has, to the best of our soul's understanding, everyone's best interest at heart. I am recording this on January 18th, 2021. It is, in fact, Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King once said, and pardon me if I mess up the quote, it's off the top of my head, a man must at some point choose to walk either in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Here, here. So that's where I'm coming from with my approach as far as priorities as I enter into this is one, be straight, be honest best you can. Two, is it of any use? Can you test it? That's why I particularly enjoy things like martial arts. You'll know real fast if it doesn't work or not. Your training partner is going to give you massive and immediate feedback. And thirdly, are we serving the common good? Are we helping others? Are we going beyond just narcissistic self-interest and considering, perhaps by grace, how the coming generation is going to live? Okay, so obviously easier said than done, or we'd all be doing it. So what gets in the way? And that's what I want to take a look at next. What I see as the primary psychological and physical impediments to getting on with the task of extinguishing this dis-ease. Next time we get together, I'm going to talk about being uptight, misaligned, and disconnected. So please join me next week, because I will be doing this weekly, although it might be in rapid succession if you're binge watching this in the future. So please do click like down there below and click subscribe. That will keep up on this series. Once again, I do hope this has been useful for you folks. Until we see you next time, stay sharp, be strong. All the best.